South Africa's agricultural sector is facing immense pressure. Globally, trade agreements are increasingly embedding e-commerce, while locally, issues like tariffs, land reform, and uncertain export markets raise tough questions for the future. Joining me in studio is Sifiso Ntombela, agricultural economist, to help unpack what this all means for youth agripreneurs and e-commerce. Sifiso, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Sifiso, more than 60% of regional trade agreements signed between 2014 and 2016 included an e-commerce chapter. What does this global shift mean for South African youth agripreneurs?
So South Africa went through a very rigorous process in the early 90s, or just mid-90s, just after the democratic dispensation, where they've basically liberalized their agricultural sector and they deregulated their markets. In simplicity, what it means is basically align the local market with the international markets. That have created opportunities for the sector to be able to stimulate growth that is existing in the international market, but it also means that there are more opportunities for young entrepreneurs in the agricultural sector, which means they must gain skills that would be able to assist them to be sustainable both in the domestic and the international markets.
Sifiso, I'd like us to look at how the US has recently imposed a 30% tariff on many South African agricultural exports starting in August 2025, threatening tens of thousands of jobs in the sector. What is your perspective on this?
It's definitely one of those areas that will have a knock-on effect on the sustainability and the competitiveness of the agricultural sector, particularly in commodities like wine, citrus, and the nuts, which are basically dominated and having export markets being established with the US market. So on one hand, you have a situation where US was not only just a market that afforded South African access opportunities, but it was also a premium market for the exporters. So now with the loss of those tariffs, the competitiveness of South African products in relation to other competitors that are going to the US market will put them on the back foot of it. But of course, one of the other areas is not all gloom and bad, because South Africa has had a very strong footprint in the international market. We send our agricultural product to more than 180 countries worldwide. So there is that opportunity for South Africa to accelerate its export diversifications, going into the Eastern market, but also expanding its route within the European. That being said, doesn't necessarily mean that the US is starting to be a less market, because as I said earlier, it's a premium market. Now, with all these changes, what it means is that South Africa must also now expand in its investment on innovation and value addition of their product, what we call product differentiation, so that you are able to gain those competitiveness and create a new market and a new share for yourself in the international market. That calls for investment on the skill set that we need to now create a new skill set for entrepreneurs that will then have to find and fight their market share in the international market, but also new investment in terms of the equipments and the infrastructure that they require. That's where then partnership between the state and private sector in trying to really bring these new entrepreneurial skills and knowledge into farmers and especially the young farmers in the sector will become important, including also the women in the agricultural sector. So it becomes very important that when we see some of the industries starting to take those initiatives to provide the support, it's really encouraging. One of those that I can just mention is what we've recently seen in the agricultural sector, where companies like the Metropolitans are starting now to provide support into agricultural sector. We've seen in recent days where they were launching their 4 terms nationally, where they are looking at the young farmers and the young entrepreneurs in the agricultural sector, including with the logistical sector, where they then say, how do we train you to be better positioned to take opportunities and be able to navigate the complex new markets that we see in the international market, as you said, where now we are facing a lot of increasing sentiment of trade, protectionism, as well as nationalism in some of the countries which we traditionally thought of them as a symbol of the new world order, where democracy and multilateral systems were the rule of laws. And now we're seeing a reverse of that. It means that the farmers would have to be equipped with a new skill set and a new set of information. So we're hoping these will then be, as much as it becomes a worse thing, but we're hoping that the farmers will be able to find a niche market that they can still produce and supply their product.
Sifiso, looking at investments and trade with the uncertainty around AGOA and other export markets, what role can e-commerce play in opening direct-to-consumer regional or international markets for small-scale agripreneurs?
Look, the time where paperwork and also traditional ways of doing business is fast vanishing in the technologically advanced world. So e-commerce is certainly a future with also these technological innovation taking place. That's the only way where you can remain sustainable and competitive in this business. Now, as I said earlier, one of the key things which tends to characterize the South African agricultural sector, it's always been in the forefront of innovation. If you think on terms of the evolutions around the mechanization, the revolution around the genetically modified or commodities and genetic improvement either on crops or on animals, we have always been part and parcel of the front runners in the sector. And even during COVID, if you recall, South Africa were able to continue exporting, where we even we translated our issuing of export certificate through electronic systems, and we're able to share that with our international partners. So e-commerce, as it evolves, we will now be able to share with your international partners the inspection services, which can then align with the phytosanitary and sanitary measures. We believe that e-commerce will definitely play a central role in driving agricultural competitiveness and export growth. But more importantly as well, in around traceability of be able to trace our commodities as it moves in different worlds, particularly in the new market that are bringing new opportunities, and how we navigate through those niche markets, and using the e-commerce as one of the instruments to really enhance our competitiveness. We believe that will be the way going forward, and we strongly encourage, especially the young farmers who are technologically savvy, we can then be able to take those opportunities, which will reduce the cost of doing business and ensure that their product can be seen, but at the same time not only just producing and exporting, but this e-commerce also present an opportunity where you can even drive ecotourism, because you are able now to share the scenery where you produce your product, the communities that are involved in the production of your product, and that combination between product exportation and ecotourism, which will then come back to South Africa. We believe e-commerce really bridge that gap and stimulate that nexus between agriculture and tourism.
Well, indeed, we hope that gap will be bridged and the market will continue growing. Sifiso, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was Sifiso Ntombela, agricultural economist, helping us unpack the challenges and opportunities facing youth agripreneurs in South Africa's agricultural sector.